Today on the Big 6 in 60, Duke gets the top seed in the NCAA tournament.
Duke's going to bring it every time they step onto the court.
Purdue wins the Big 10 and gets a 2 seed.
Purdue beats Michigan. What a win.
And NC State is headed to Dayton for the first 4.
The brackets are out, and NC State got hosed.
This is the Big 6 in 60, the 6 biggest national sports stories from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now. Thank you for making the Big 6 in 60 your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The NCAA tournament field is set after Selection Sunday, and the Duke Blue Devils have the number 1 overall seed in the field of 68. Now that they know the path to a national championship, JJ Jackson looks at the games ahead on Locked On Blue Devils.
Got to talk about this win that Duke had and claiming the number 1 overall seed. Selection Sunday comes and goes every single year, Dad, and for the overwhelming majority of our lifetimes, Duke's name has always been selected. 16th time in program history, Duke's been the number 1 overall seed.
Absolutely incredible. And you know, if you had asked us a week ago if we would be sitting here this morning saying this, well, we're pretty much optimistic. We look through Duke-colored lenses a lot, but the truth is we may have been a little bit hesitant. Couple of big injuries, a lot of question marks, but one thing you can never question is whether or not Duke's going to bring it every time they step onto the court, and they certainly did just that.
They brought it, and it was really fun. Dad and I were at the ACC tournament this week. They're in Charlotte, able to cheer and support these guys on the tournament run. The injuries, like you said, to Caleb Foster and Gongbo a week ago, so much uncertainty. It wasn't until Tuesday that we actually heard the specifics of the injuries for both of those guys, and 7 was enough. Now we think Patrick Gongba will be back for the NCAA tournament, so we'll get to that in just a little bit. But thinking about just the season as a whole, to go 32-2 overall, to win the ACC regular season, to win the ACC tournament, losing 2 games by a combined 4 points, having the National Player of the Year, man, pretty good. Good year, and the tournament hasn't even started.
Wow. And you know, I was talking about a week ago, but let's go back to the beginning of the season when you had on so many incredible guests and you were talking about what might be, because we were coming off one of the best seasons in quite a while.
Yeah.
We had been cheering for Con Knipple and Cooper Flagg and that incredible team. And then they left and went to the NBA. We knew we had a good team coming in, but we weren't quite sure what would it really be when they bounced the ball the first time. And by the way, our incredibly confident coach decided, how about one of the toughest non-conference schedules maybe in the history of Duke basketball? And looking at that schedule, Joshua, as optimistic as I've always been, JJ, I was just thinking, man, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And here we are.
Yeah, you're letting people know the legal name, and I'll let that slide for now. But yeah, no, it was pretty impressive, the schedule that Shire put together, and to go through and pick up the wins that they were able to. Tested really early in the non-conference. That Florida game in the ACC-SEC Challenge was massive, with Duke able to win on the last-second shot from Isaiah Evans and earning this top seed. Now, it's not going to be easy.
Right.
As the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, you and I were watching Selection Sunday unfold, and some of the names that we saw appear in Duke's region, pretty impressive stuff. The 2 seed in the region is going to be the UConn Huskies. The 3 seed will be the Michigan State Spartans. Duke fans are already pointing out the fact that you just can't have March Madness without Duke and Michigan State crossing paths, which is so true.
That's right.
And then the 4 seed is Kansas, 5 seed is St. John's. I mean, it is heavy hitters, Hall of Fame pedigree coaches too.
You're not kidding. When you look at the East region and you look at just the names of the coaches who are in that East region, when we talk about, first of all, I'm going to talk about him, John Shire.
Yeah.
My goodness, what he has done, historic what he has done in his first 4 years. We've got to talk about him among the best of the best currently coaching. But then you go on from him and you've got Rick Pitino, literally a peer and colleague of Coach K.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's been doing it a long time.
Yep.
Very successful. You got Bill Self, Tom Izzo. You're coming in with the other Hurley brother, who's not my favorite brother, but man, he's been successful at UConn too. Dan Hurley. I mean, 5 outstanding coaches who know what it takes to win in March and into April. I tell you what, you've got to beat every single team if you want to be the champion. But whoo, does Duke have a road?
Yeah, no kidding. And fortunately, it's not set up like you got to go one by one through every single one of these teams.
Thank goodness.
Fortunately, the way the bracket works, the 2-3 matchup would mean UConn and Michigan State have got to take care of one another essentially before Duke would play. But, we'll see how all of that unfolds. Those coaches that we just named, every single one of them have won a national championship except John Shire as a head coach.
But
this is the year to change that.
This is the year to change that. But I will say this, because I'm going to stand up for my guy.
Yeah.
And Coach Shire's my guy. He may not have been the head coach on a national championship team, but he was an assistant coach on a national championship team. And you know what, JJ? He was a player on a national championship team. My guy knows what it takes.
Yeah, he knows what it takes to win in March, and I think he's going to be able to do that as well. But, thinking back to UConn winning a few titles recently. Tom Izzo won his title at the turn of the century there with Michigan State. Bill Self has won a pair. Rick Pitino won one in 96 at Kentucky. His 2013 and one in Louisville. He won. They vacated it since, but we watched it play out. We know how history works. It happened. So a multi-time champion there. It's going to be a difficult test for Duke nonetheless. But then just circling back to the perspective of it all, Dad, like we said, the starting 5 from last year's team drafted into the NBA. This group has to come together. They're battling through injuries lately. Fortunately, there were no real injuries throughout the course of the whole year.
Season.
And it was a team that really didn't have the largest number of available players when they made the early decision to redshirt Sebastian Wilkins, going from 10 down to 9. And so you look at just the complete picture of the season. The one thing we haven't mentioned yet, in addition to Shire's coaching greatness and kind of putting in perspective, earning the number 1 overall seed, Dad, the ACC is better than it was last year.
Absolutely. The ACC is better. The non-conference schedule was more difficult. There was talk out there about, can Duke win a close game? And we had seen those games that were just heartbreakers. Yeah. And this year they're showing they can win the close game. They can play a tougher schedule against a tougher ACC conference and actually have a better resume today than they did a year ago. And that just feels impossible to say.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 starters went to the NBA. But then Coach Shire did something, and the coaching staff did something that was absolutely remarkable and doesn't happen in 2026. He doubled down on the guys on his bench. He said, you know what? We're going to bring in some all-stars, and thank goodness they did. The Boozer twins, absolutely amazing. Herminia has been absolutely amazing. Dame Sarr, absolutely amazing. So we're glad we've got those freshmen who came in. But we were carried in many ways by Pat Gamba, by Caleb Foster, by Malik Brown. And then how about Showtime Slim?
Yes.
Huh?
Isaiah Evans, that's right.
What a great season this has been. And you know what, JJ? I think the best is yet to come.
Yeah, no, I hope so. I mean, sights have been on 6 since 2015. We want to win the 6th national championship game. And Dad, like you and I have said, we've watched many a basketball games together in my lifetime. You're the reason why we've had you on the show before, and the reason why I'm such a big Duke fan and love the opportunity to talk about this. I mean, this is a team that really, it feels good that there's a good chance this could be a national championship season. Here's perspective for people to think about. Duke can only lose one more game this season.
Wow.
No matter what, they can only lose one more game this season. I hope they don't lose any.
There you go.
But if they were to drop one, they would finish this entire basketball season with only 3 losses, 1 fewer than that team we're talking about from a year ago.
Well, and that's just amazing to think about. And I think it points to the growth of Coach Shire, who they talk about their team motto, Kaizen, right? Like we're going to be better. We're going to be here in those moments. We're going to be present. We've heard Coach Shire talk in his press conferences about he has his team talking more in the timeouts. And we've seen the video of of Isaiah Evans drawing up plays on the whiteboard before the coaches come in. And so we're seeing growth of the coach. We're seeing incredible success and a better success than we've seen in the past. Man, I'm excited about the program today. I'm excited about what's going to happen over the next few weeks, but I'm really excited about the future of Duke basketball. Holy cow.
Yeah.
When we talk about succession, Coach K knew what he was doing, didn't he?
They nailed it for sure. The blueprint was well executed. No other coach in the ACC's history has won 3 conference tournament titles in their first 4 seasons. Jon Scheyer has. That's a big reason why Duke was the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Do you want to pick a 5-12 upset, or do you want to pick a number 1 seed? Doesn't really matter. Whatever fits your mood, you can make spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. Purdue had a great Sunday with a win in the Big Ten championship game that helped secure a 2 seed for the preseason number 1 team in the country in the tournament. With 1 trophy in hand, Nick Arvin recaps the win and looks to the tourney on Locked On Boilermakers.
Purdue beats Michigan. What a win it was. And it was a win largely when we talked yesterday about the 2 seed that Purdue, there's a lot of conversation. Could they get there? Could they not? As we sat yesterday before the Michigan game, Purdue sat right on that 3-2 line on the outs behind a team in Michigan State. And I know all the conversation surrounding that Big Ten tournament title game. It's been there forever. Where does that game really account? Does that game really make an impact on the overall seeding come the Selection Sunday show that happens right after that Big Ten title game on CBS? The large consensus was no going into that game, that it wouldn't have much of an effect on would Purdue get that 3 seed, would Purdue get that 2 seed, and even Matt Painter said it after a victory against UCLA going into that finals matchup, that they were pretty well locked into a 3 seed, that it may be the difference between going to Greenville or going to St. Louis if Purdue were to beat Michigan. But Matt Painter was wrong for once, and I'm not trying to claim that I know more than Matt Painter, but I did sit on here yesterday. We took a look at the metrics considering Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois. Those were the 3 teams fighting for that final 2 seed, and I said, I actually think that Purdue does have the metrics over Michigan State here. Now, the head-to-head was what was keeping Michigan State ahead of Purdue, but with a win over Michigan in the Big Ten title game, I just saw no way that Purdue was going to be able to be kept out of that final 2 seed. And looky what happens. The Purdue Boilermakers win 80-72. They're the Big Ten champions, and they get that 2 seed. So let's take a look at how this game went down, because it was one of the best games Purdue has played all season long. I know we've said that a lot lately throughout this Big Ten tournament run, where the Purdue Boilermakers win 4 straight games in 4 days, which that's the first time that's happened since 1910 or something crazy like that. It was improbable. It wasn't supposed to happen, but yet here we are. The Purdue Boilermakers are Big Ten champions. And the reason it happened was largely because of the front court against Michigan. And for a Wolverines team that all that's talked about is the physicality of this front court, how physical the defense is, that Dusty May can throw anything at any team in the nation and they're going to have success. Well, they weren't able to do that against Purdue, because Oscar Clough, Trey Kaufman-Wren in the front court yesterday, even getting into some early foul trouble, they looked like the best players on the court, and they largely were the best players on the court yesterday. Oscar Clough had a career day, 21 points for the guy, 5 rebounds. Then Trey Kaufman-Wren, his other front court mate, had 20 points in this game. They combined for 40 points. That's how you get it done against the Wolverines, and that's how Purdue has gotten it done throughout the course of this Big Ten tournament. I can't express enough how happy I am, how excited I am that this team was able to flip the switch the way that they were able to throughout the course of this Big Ten tournament. Now, the Michigan game is one that deserves to be talked about because we saw this team earlier in the season and we fell to them. Michigan has been that number one seed throughout the course of the year. And the fact that going into March Madness, Purdue has that, not just a momentum win, but they have that win under their belt where they can say, we beaten the best of the best. So who's going to beat us, and why can't we be the best of the best? Because Purdue certainly looked better than Michigan yesterday. They played better than Michigan yesterday. They sure didn't turn the ball over, which is something we have been asking for this team to do forever. They only turned the ball over 2 times. Michigan turned it over 7 times, but Purdue able to capitalize off those turnovers. The margin there was 13 points for Purdue compared to Michigan's 2 points off turnovers. We talked about the front court, but how about Braden Smith in this game, who is now just 1 assist behind that record, tying that record, rather. That'll happen against Queens in that first round matchup in March Madness. Braden Smith was a man on the mission, especially after tearing his jersey to start out this game. He wasn't wearing number 3. He was wearing number 41. I look away from the TV for a second, look back at it, and I'm just saying, who is this number 41 out there, and why is he able to play make at such a high level? Didn't know who we were able to get off the bench, but I noticed it was Braden Smith. He had a great day as well. All the starters really showed up in this game. There wasn't a player outside of maybe a Daniel Jacobson who didn't play well. Jacobson is a conversation for another day, but he had to get thrown in there when Oscar Clough and Trey Kaufman-Renn got into foul trouble at one point. But CJ has 4 points, played good defense on Michigan's backcourt. You got Fletch, who made some big shots down the line, down the stretch of that game. 14 points for him. Braden had 14 and 11 assists, a double-double for Braden Smith. All the starters played well. Purdue as a whole played well. It was a good coach game by Matt Painter. And how about this team having legs under them? That was something I was a little bit concerned about going into this one, is against a Michigan team that's only played 3 days compared to a Purdue that's played 4 days. Would the Boilermakers have the legs under them to compete with a physical team like Michigan? Well, they were absolutely able to do that. They win the Big Ten title, and I couldn't be more excited for the way that this season has gone. All the ups and downs, going 500 through the backstretch of Big Ten play, and then getting into the Big Ten tournament. These seniors putting it on their shoulders, saying, we're going to take over this tournament. We're able to flip a switch. Everything is still in front of us. And then not just saying that, but living up to it. I'm so excited about the way that this tournament played out, but it's not over for Purdue. They're the Big Ten champions, still have an opportunity to maybe, just maybe, win their first ever national championship. Everything's still in front of this team right now. And 4-0, as we've said every episode since the Big Ten tournament started, it's not about the regular season. It's not about how that played out. It's about these tournament games. Purdue was 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, now 4-0. That's all that matters.
Some NC State fans had hopes of getting as high as a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, but instead the Wolfpack fell all the way to the first 4 games in Dayton and will play Texas Tuesday night. Grayson Boone and Kenton Gibbs aren't happy about it on Locked On Wolfpack.
The brackets are out, and NC State got hosed. What else is new? Water is wet. The sky is blue. NC State has yet again been snubbed to a certain extent by the NCAA. The men's team has received an 11 seed, but not just an 11 seed. They're headed to Dayton. They will be in the 11 seed play-in game to decide if they are inside of March Madness come Thursday. They will have a rematch, put a pin in that for just a second, with the Texas Longhorns, who we've already seen this season. That was way back in November, the end of November, Feast Week over in Maui, an 11 seed. And many of us thought coming into Selection Sunday that, this might be the first time in a while that NC State feels somewhat safely in the field. We were expecting anywhere from as high as like a 9 seed. That felt high to me, but I saw projections of a 9 seed. Maybe a 10 seed felt the most likely, and in some cases, an 11 seed. Nobody really thought, outside of a couple outside chances, that we'd end up in Dayton. And yet here we are, defying the metrics, defying the resumes, defying everything that they use to determine who goes what and plays where. NC State is now banished to Dayton, and they're going to have to play their way in to March Madness.
Grayson, have you ever been to Dayton, Ohio?
I have not.
Have you ever been to the state of Ohio?
Unfortunately, I have, yes.
Yeah, see, I'm glad you used that word. Unfortunately, I've never met anybody who wants to be in Ohio. I've never met anybody who's like, you know what I really could use right now? A trip to Columbus, a trip to Dayton. I'll tell you, Cleveland is great this time of year. I've never heard that phrase once in my life.
Hey, shout out Joakim Noah.
Shout out Joakim Noah. Shout out Joakim Noah, because I've never heard that once in my life. And who's covering this game, Grayson?
Would you believe Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley will be on the call?
The way that Charles Barkley feels about the people of San Antonio.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
That's how I feel about them wide old backs in Ohio. You know what? We ain't got to get into that. But I'll say this. It's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate to see our team get treated in this way. And part of me is like, you know what? This is why Will Wade is our coach. And this is why I love the guy, because he's like, you know, his first response was, there are no victims here. We did it to ourselves. And that's, I love a coach that's going to say that. And I love a coach that's going to say, I'm going to control what I can control. But Grayson and I are not in that locker room. We don't put together any of the drills. We don't put together any of that. So we can talk about this. And the objective truth of every metric said, hey, you are supposed to be here. Somehow, even though the committee said we don't take into account who's playing well and who gets hot at the end of the year, even though that was said to be the case, somehow we end up in Dayton with another team that's floundered and flopped and messed around at the end of the year in Texas. This is a disappointing result. This is disappointing to see that we're going here, but you know, it just is what it is at this point.
And like I said, talking about some of those metrics that are supposed to be determining who gets what seed, who plays where, and what region you'd fall into, one of the biggest discrepancies I found was still in our same region. The 10 seed in this region is Missouri. Now, they're going to play the 7 seed in Miami, so technically speaking, if we were supposed to be the 10 seed, they're going to try and avoid that matchup between us and Miami. Again, put another pin in that for just a second. But Missouri, when you're looking at the predictive metrics here, Missouri is 58 in the net. They have 5 quad 1 wins, and quad 1 and quad 2 combined, they have 9 wins there. NC State is 36 in the net. That is 22 spots better. They have 5 quad 1 wins, the same amount, and we have 11 quad 1 and quad 2 victories. That's 2 more than Missouri. How is it that Missouri is 10 and we are 11? Now, maybe Missouri has better wins on the resume. I believe that to be true. However, if the NCAA committee is using the net to determine these seeds, it seems like they didn't use the net to determine these seeds. So if you're going to use it, then use it. If you're not going to use it, then say that. It feels like they have completely failed, or maybe it was just negligence in deciding these seeds here, because NC State did get screwed. Now, I'm glad you mentioned what Will Wade said, because Will Wade obviously was asked about this in the seed that we got. He said, there's no victim here. This is what we got. We essentially played our way into this. And in fact, he mentioned this way back in February, that he was so disappointed with some of the play that we put on the court. He said, quote, we'd be lucky to end up in Dayton at this rate, unquote. Wade does have quite the knack of speaking things into existence, because now here we are. Now, like I said, NC State is getting screwed in the seeding, but at the same time, there was a very easy way to avoid all this. You could have beat Georgia Tech. You could have beat Miami. You could have beat Kansas. You could have beat either Seton Hall and or Texas in Maui. You could have beat Notre Dame on the road. You could have beat Stanford at home. How many opportunities could you need to get it right and avoid putting yourself in this situation? There were so many. And so, yes, there is one school of thought where NC State kind of got hosed here because, well, they did. And the other side of the track is, yes, we did play our way into this. We did lose 7 of the last 9 games we played, including the ACC tournament. This is what you get when you FA and you FO. We warned so many times about this and the must-win games coming down the stretch, only to drop them left and right. Unfortunately, when you do that so often, you don't really have a great resume to fall back on. You put yourselves in dangerous situations. Now, something else is interesting about this is we said that the first round game in the ACC tournament against Pitt was a must win. So now I'm wondering, if we win that game and you're still a play-in seed, were we out altogether if we lost to Pitt? I don't know. It certainly seems like that is being implied here. That might have been an even bigger issue. Glad we're not dealing with that, but still, it's a tough draw, but it's not exactly undeserved. NC State has very much put themselves in this spot.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you are looking at a situation where we are not the top dogs in this game. We are not competing for a 1 seed, 2 seed, and it's like, oh, we should have got the 1 seed line because we're talking about a 10 versus an 11.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, you know. If you're wearing the red and white NC State, you have to know if you leave it in the hands of a committee, you're never going to end up where you want to be. If you leave a resume that is pretty good, that is so-so, that is it's above average, you know where you're going to end up every time if you're NC State. And so, you know, knowing that, playing how we played, playing with the lack of effort, playing with the things that we dealt with, you played with fire, and you found out that the stove was hot. Oh, NC State got screwed by an NCAA committee? Fork found in kitchen, everybody.
Now I'm going to pull a pin back out of that Texas bullet point that I gave you. Another stipulation in how they create the brackets and the seeding, they want to avoid rematches in the first round, meaning that if we played this team anytime in the regular season, they're going to try and not set you up to play that team again. Well, we did play Texas, and we're being slotted to play them again here. The other two 11 seeds that are in a play-in game are SMU. Obviously, we played them, and we beat them. And Miami of Ohio. Now, Miami of Ohio is a very interesting case because they were undefeated up until they lost in their conference tournament. Now, the committee came out and said that Miami of Ohio was ahead of NC State, Texas, and SMU inside of the seeding list. But then the official NCAA tournament seed list came out, and NC State is the top 11 seed on there. So either somebody has false information or they just don't care to get their facts straight because this is not adding up. If you wanted to avoid a potential rematch, NC State would play Miami of Ohio and Texas would play SMU. It was right there without much tinkering you had to do. And yet and still, we have to rematch with Texas, a team we've already seen. Now SMU has to play Miami of Ohio. And also the humane part of this gripe, I would much rather play Miami of Ohio than I would Texas. Miami of Ohio, I don't know how I feel about them in terms of their strength of a team, but I would want to find out. Now, we've played Texas. They put up 102 points on us. I feel a little uneasy if we're keeping it 100 here. So very concerning draw here for NC State, to Kenton's point. Not exactly unexpected because we have let the committee ultimately decide our fate. We had the power to change that. We didn't. And so now here we are. We waffled around. We lost 7 of our last 9 games. And now here we are. Just a very disappointing situation for NC State because you would like to look at the other matchups like, hey, if we get BYU in the first round, yeah, DeBonce's a lottery pick, but outside of that, I don't know. BYU's kind of average. You can't overlook Texas. You cannot overlook Texas. You have to win that one to play any more basketball. So, yeah, I would like to look at, man, if we beat BYU, we'd have to play Gonzaga or Kennesaw State. That's not that bad of a draw. Don't care right now. We got to beat Texas. And Texas is a tough matchup to face in the first 4. So, it's disappointing. It's definitely a hollow feeling here to end up in Dayton when we feel like we have the resume. Actually, we do have the resume to be out of Dayton, and yet here we are. You have to play your way in to March Madness tournament that we should already be inside of.
The only good thing about this team ending up in Dayton is there will be absolutely no distractions. There will be nothing for them to be, there will be nothing to divert focus from basketball. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing. That's the only good thing about this team going to Dayton. That's all. That's it. That's the one silver lining. If you ain't locked in for this one, there was nothing that could ever get you locked in because, again, I've been to Dayton, and there's nothing there. There's nothing. It's a place that nobody good should be. So let's get right, church, and let's go home.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Do you want to pick a 5-12 upset, or do you want to pick a number one seed? Doesn't really matter. Whatever fits your mood, you can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Thunder went from down 9 to up 15 in the second half and beat the Timberwolves Sunday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just barely kept his streak of 20-point games going. And Ryland Stiles tells you everything you need to know from the final in OKC on Locked On Thunder.
The Thunder got great news before tip-off. Isaiah Hartenstein would be available after being listed as questionable initially, and now the Thunder just missed J-Dub, an all-NBA swingman. All that misses from this rotation. And Minnesota was fully healthy in this game, as Anthony Edwards, who was questionable, ended up playing. They were fully healthy. Otherwise, just some G League assignments for Minnesota on their injury report. The Thunder start AJ Mitchell in this game, which I found interesting, and it ended up working for the Thunder to get out to a 9-0 start. 9-0 run with great defensive energy. And really, that energy translated to elite defensive production, which carried them through this game. I mean, the turnovers that they created, the hustle plays that they had to get to long rebounds, it all allowed them to, even for as bad as you think, rightfully so, that the Thunder offense played at the end of the first quarter, in the second quarter, Minnesota could only grow a 9-point lead because of the Thunder's defense. And what a luxury it was for OKC to be having such a massive defensive game, and then they go to their bench and you pass the baton to Casey Wallace and Alex Caruso as your first two guys off the bench. And, you know, for as strong as that 9-0 run was, and for as good as the Thunder were to start this game, Minnesota got some things going out of their initial timeout, and it was largely built on this Thunder team missing some great chances at the rim, missing in the mid-range on shots that they should have capitalized on, and Minnesota capitalized on the Thunder's inability to hit those shots and to convert. Minnesota's bench unit initially, with Ayo Dosunmu just getting right into the game and making it a one-point contest with his flurry of buckets at the start of this one, was huge. But the Timberwolves, largely, though, they should be ecstatic in some ways and devastated in others, because SGA could not buy a bucket or a free throw early on. And it's a credit to Minnesota. Like, yes, some of the shots that he missed, they're shots that he creates. They're shots that, you know, he makes 100 times out of 101 times, and this was the 101st time, right? But also Minnesota did a great job of playing disciplined, playing aggressive, playing physical with him, and doing whatever you can to slow him down. And they did slow down SGA in a massive way, while having the three-point variance swing in Minnesota's way in a massive, massive way. Right? The Thunder in this game, we're looking at a situation here where SGA could not buy a bucket, was laboring offensively as a scorer, and the Thunder, in turn, was throwing up 33, 32, 83 shooting splits compared to Minnesota's 52, 50, and 60 shooting splits. That was all happening simultaneously. And yet, Minnesota, you look up in that scenario, and Minnesota leads by 5. They lead by 5 because Minnesota could not stop turning the ball over. Those turnovers killed them. Those turnovers were the lifeblood of Oklahoma City to stay in this game and eventually turn this game into a win in the second half. And the Thunder also course-corrected in points in the paint. You know, they struggled to score in the paint in the first half. They got a lot better as the game went on. Julius Randle was fantastic on both sides tonight. I thought that he really stood up defensively on Shai quite a bit, considering what you would expect from Randle. And then offensively, there was a stretch there for 3 quarters where he was just hitting anything that he threw up there. But again, the turnovers killed the Timberwolves, and they won this game for OKC. And the Thunder always find that detail, that ability, that edge to overcome whatever is being thrown at them. And OKC starts the fourth quarter with an 11-4 run with Shai on the bench. And that was similar to what happened in the second quarter, where, yeah, I mean, they lost the second quarter by 10 points and they didn't play great basketball, but the bench did their job in stabilizing the game for OKC, considering what Shea looked like in the first quarter. Whereas I think that you have a lot more appreciation for what the bench did in the second quarter had Shea had a normal first quarter. And that lead was ballooned up because you also, on top of the turnovers, on top of the ability to go out on 9-0 run, you also had 10 points from Shea in the first quarter. Now you're up by 20. And now that kind of, treading water, so to say, of that secondary unit feels a lot better than it did once you had let go of the rope with Shea on the court in the first quarter. So I think that, the fourth quarter was more of the same, just with better results from beyond the arc for OKC. In both the second and fourth quarters, whenever OKC did not have Shea on the court, they kept generating quality looks. And that's been a problem for them in the past, especially in the postseason, is being able to find quality offense when Shea is not out there. And I think that the Thunder have really found something for a playoff run, where it's Isaiah Hartenstein, AJ Mitchell, Isaiah Joe, Jared McCain, all taking care of the offense. And in particular, I heart Joe McCain. You can swap out Mitchell for Dub if you want to at times. You can keep Mitchell in there for Dub, whatever it ends up being. But all those guys are incredible at generating threes. Ihart setting up the threes, Joe and McCain knocking down the threes. Chet Holmgren in there as the fifth guy who can do it on both ends. He can finish plays if you throw him a lob, or if you get out in transition, or if he cuts down the lane, or if you just have an open three to kick it out to him. He can finish those plays. But I think that because the Thunder are so holistically defensive focused, where it's like everything's about their defense, that we forget that, even if you stripped away some of these elite defenders, yeah, the Thunder aren't like generationally great defensively, like where they're just like out of this world. But because they have Chet Holmgren, he is such a floor raiser on the defensive end of the floor as an anchor of their defense. As a guy who can also switch if needed. That, yeah, McCain and Joe, they're nowhere close to the type of defenders that you could throw out there in a playoff setting and feel great about on that end of the floor. But they're good enough to where Chet can raise the tide of that group for the trade-offs of, yeah, the point of attack defense might slip in those minutes in the playoffs, but the offense is exponentially better, and Chet is going to take care of the defense. And like that's a lineup, I think, that they can really go to. Because even though the Thunder won a championship last year, what almost halted them from winning one? 3-point shooting, which was 13th out of 16 teams in the playoff field, and half-court offense, which really stalled. This is a group here, especially that trio of Ihart, Joe, McCain, plus you have Chet in there for defense, and then throw in the fifth guy that you want, whether it's J-Dub, Mitchell, Shea, whoever it is. That's a group that can really get it going offensively in a hurry, and you saw that tonight. That they were awesome. They were dominant in this game. OKC was great in the fourth quarter. They ran away with it. They win at 116-103. 4 lead changes, 7 times tied, led by 18 points at one point. The Thunder did. Minnesota only led by 9. OKC -6 on the glass, but forced 22 turnovers and only gave it away 7 times. The Thunder win points in the paint, 46-32. The Thunder win second chance points, 20-7. Fast break points by 7. And they won points off turnover, 29-6. That was their lifeblood to not let this game fully slip against them whenever their half-court offense saw where Shea was just not hitting in the half-court. Getting out in transition really helped curb some of that. Whenever the three-point shots weren't falling initially, that curbed a lot of that. And then the three-point shots did start to fall in the fourth quarter, and you saw what we described, what could have happened in the first. Had the three-point shots fallen, you grow a huge lead. The Thunder dominate bench points, which is surprising in the one sense of just like, when I had Sumo went in there and was killing it, you were like, wow, okay, this is nice production from Minnesota's bench. Yeah, guess what? OKC on the bench, 61 points, 32 for Minnesota. OKC a +19 in the second half. The Thunder had 6 players reach double figures. The Thunder end up shooting 41% from the floor, 37% from 3, and 89% from the free throw line, which you win a game like that, that's a testament to this Thunder culture, a testament to their defense for being able to hold Minnesota to 103 points, to being able to force 22 turnovers to make life difficult on the Timberwolves, who ended up getting the shot variance game from 3 anyway, 45% from 3, 47% from the floor, 72% from the free throw line. This was a fantastic game for the Thunder defense. I think that bench unit of McCain, of Joe, of Ihart, that is a difference-making bench unit in the postseason. And I know Ihart's going to start with the double bigs, but it's a difference-making secondary unit for what Oklahoma City needs come playoff time. So I think that this is a great thing for the Thunder to learn and find and explore in a game like this. And obviously it's going to be matchup dependent largely. But the way that Minnesota plays offense, it's not built on or able to exploit weaker point of attack defenders the way others can with their off-ball movement. with Minnesota, like, yeah, hypothetically, could Ant Edwards break down? Could you call a ball screen, get McCain switched onto him, break down McCain? Well, yeah, but he wants to get to the rim. Chet at the rim is going to be able to slow him down there, obviously. So it just is a great lineup for this Timberwolves team. And then another big reason why, even as Minnesota gets 2 wins in the regular season series, OKC also got 2. It's the same reason we talked about at the end of the postseason last year. I just don't trust Minnesota to stop turning the ball over. I don't trust that they can have a series where they protect the basketball at a high level. I don't trust that they can have a series where they consistently make the right decisions and hit those shots. Where I thought last year, Ant played exceptional against OKC, even though he was not a good scorer. He was not a good scorer because the Thunder weren't giving him opportunities to score. He made the right passes. His teammates didn't hit the shots. In this game, it was almost the inverse in some ways, where Ant, I thought, pressed too much in this game as a scorer and didn't just let the game come to him and didn't just feed Dante, didn't just feed his teammates. And that's when the game started to turn against Minnesota. So they just seem to always make these mistakes and have these sloppy details and have this bad body language and look like a poorly coached team. That's what it is to me. They look like a very poorly coached team.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Do you want to pick a 5-12 upset, or do you want to pick a number 1 seed? Doesn't really matter. Whatever fits your mood, you can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Raptors defended home court against the best record in the East last night, getting a win over the Pistons despite 33 points from Cade Cunningham. Sophie Sheik has the recap with Dwayne Notice on Locked On Raptors.
Dwayne, they were entering the Raptors, that is, this game on the heels of one of their better wins of the season, a very scrappy, impressive win against the Phoenix Suns. And that was arguably their most timely win after they had kind of got punked by the New Orleans Pelicans, like we talked about. So the task in this game was simple. Continue that momentum against a truly elite Pistons team. Again, number 1 seed in the East. Now, Detroit had looked less invincible lately, you could say, but they had won 3 games in a row before the Raptors beat them tonight. But for the Raptors, the biggest thing was it was an opportunity to flip the script on the momentum they had been facing and on their record. We talked about it a bunch, 4-18 against top 10 teams. They were 1-9 against the top 5 of the East, so even worse. So again, this was a huge opportunity for them, especially if you looked at the standings when they were basically tied for the 6th seed. So how did the Raptors do, Dwayne? Well, for a second straight game, they just absolutely clawed like dogs. 17 lead changes in this game. They doubled up the Pistons in second chance points. They led the game by as many as 14 points overall by holding the Pistons to just 17 points in the third quarter. 4 of the 5 starters scored double digits. Brandon Ingram led the way with 34, second game in a row with 30+. Jakob Poeltl, 21 points, 18 rebounds, and a season-high 36 minutes, by the way. That was awesome to see. And all of that basically led to the Raptors picking up just their second win against a top 7 team in the NBA. So, Dwayne, now I pass all of this to you. How impressive was that?
Oh, man, I'm really impressed, Z. I think that we've been speaking about the Raptors and the missed opportunities of late, but them just doing a great job of seizing the moment. You talked about them building momentum, and I think that this game was a great opportunity for them to rewrite their history, right? To kind of recreate and reimagine the narrative that's happening for them around the league right now. But playing against the top team, you mentioned it, the Pistons, I feel personally, especially since the All-Star break, weren't and aren't the same Pistons that were feared in the beginning part of the season, but they, again, aren't any slouches, and they're one of the top teams in the East, obviously. So playing against a phenomenal talent like Cade Cunningham, who's one of the better point guards in our leagues, being at that size, being able to facilitate, but also score the basketball, the way he's able to dictate the game, I think is great. But the fact that the Raptors had a response, right? You talked about them having a great game last game, but the fact that they're able to continue that, I think is definitely a great sight to see. And we saw it from different aspects. I think that's why this win was so impressive to me, is because they showcase different flashes of what they do. We spoke about the third quarter and their ability to play defense and hold them to the 17 points. I think that's an example of the Raptors just, sticking to their identity, right? We talked about how they can, rely on their actual value systems and what their DNA is as a basketball team. And I think today was an example of them showing that. Scotty Barnes didn't have the best game offensively, but again, you love the fact that his impact is past just scoring the basketball. He's still able to get, a high amount of rebounds, still able to facilitate, and still able to defend at a high level. I think that his defense today was definitely impeccable, and one of the reasons why the Raptors won. But again, Raptors, I think whenever they play teams and they're able to neutralize that 3-point statistic category and they're still able to run, and then you saw them showing more fight on the glass, like you mentioned, second chance opportunities being a big factor for them today. I think everybody was just locked in. I mean, again, Emmanuel quickly didn't have the best game, but then you have a guy like RJ who's still attacking the basket and finding ways to score in the paint and attack the free throw line. You have guys like Jakob Porto, who's not ducking any smoke when it comes to Jalen Duren or any of the bigs when it comes to the Pistons. And then BI, man, like I have to give him his flowers because we've been hard on him recently. And like you mentioned, it second plus 30-point game, but his response has been tremendous. And that's like the true calling of an actual superstar, of a guy who's capable and not afraid of the moment, who's fearless, who understands that you can't put so many bad games together. And now he's kind of getting back to his own rhythm. And I think the confidence is there and the swag is back. And it's good because you need a guy like BI to play at a high level for the Raptors to be in the lead or have a chance to win games on an every night basis.
Yeah, if you look at the box score of this game, you kind of just mentioned it with all the starters. Even I know Emmanuel quickly didn't have the best of nights with 6 points on 1 of 12 shooting, but in the Raptors minutes with their starters on the floor, they were plus 25. They simply dominated this game with their starters, and each of them kind of playing into their role and doing what they had to do. You mentioned specifically Scotty Barnes. You're right. 14 points isn't the loudest. 5 of 11 shooting isn't the most efficient. He has 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 blocks. It's his first time getting over 100 blocks in a season for his career. But with all of that, he was a monster plus 22 in this game. Again, when you talk about impact and winning his minutes and not needing to do it by scoring, how about holding Cade Cunningham scoreless for the first 4 minutes of the game? Basically, the second Scotty Barnes sat, the Raptors' lead early on was erased because Jacoby Walter had to try to check Cade Cunningham, and he picked up 2 fouls, and he was out of the game. And then you had to put Scotty Barnes back in, and the Raptors were able to fight from there. Mm-hmm. Or how about the fourth quarter when the Pistons had cut it down to just a 5-point deficit on a 7-0 run? Again, thanks to Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes makes one of the best plays of the game where he collapses the defense by driving inside. He kicks it baseline to the right corner to IQ, who swings it to Brandon Ingram above the break. BI hits the triple. All of a sudden, the Raptors have breathing room. The Raptors end up outscoring the Pistons 15-9 in the final 4 minutes of this game. And we've talked so much about their leaders needing to step up in the fourth quarter and in those tight situations, and it trying to hopefully be a precursor for what they're able to accomplish in the playoffs. So if we see these back-to-back games of what the Raptors have been able to accomplish with their leaders and the impact these guys are making by like just filling in their roles, it is just very uplifting for their chances moving forward, hopefully. Because again, Brandon Ingram leads the way offensively and now he's doing it a lot with the ball in his hands more. You see Scotty Barnes continuing to lead the way defensively by focusing on getting stops for this team. And then the other guys are filling in, like a guy like Jakob Poeltl stepping up tonight with his 21 and 18. RJ Barrett continues to, what I feel like, unlock a lot of half-court offense for this team as well. So there's just so many different layers being added to what the Raptors are trying to accomplish. And I feel like a lot of that seems to have happened these last 2 games after they got punked by the New Orleans Pelicans. And we were hard on them when we talked about that incident at the end of the game when DeJounte Murray stood over Jamal Shed, barked at him, and then everyone on social media, including us, was being pretty critical of the Raptors' response to that.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Do you want to pick a 5-12 upset, or do you want to pick a number 1 seed? Doesn't really matter. Whatever fits your mood, you can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Eagles brought back Dallas Goedert for another season by agreeing to a 1-year contract over the weekend. Louis DiBiase tells us what to expect from Goedert in year 9 in Philly.
On Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Goedert finally, after days of pushing back that void that would have made the Eagles be on the hook for $20 million in dead salary cap space if Dallas Goedert signed with another team after becoming a free agent, after pushing that date back to, it was from Tuesday or Wednesday to Friday, and then from Friday to Monday. Both sides agreed to that. And then finally on Sunday, both sides agreed to a new one-year contract extension for only $7 million. And to me, like, there's a lot of things to take away from this contract extension, both on the field and off of it. But the main takeaway for me is that Howie Roseman this offseason continues to absolutely kill it when it comes to maximizing value with what free agents he is signing. The best bang for your buck, I think, is coming out of Philadelphia. Are they making the quantity of moves like the Las Vegas Raiders are, or the Washington Commanders, even in their own division, the New York Giants? No. But the moves they're making are smart. They're cost controlled, but they're also very effective. Like, Dallas Goedert is only getting $7 million after a 13 touchdown season. He had 11 in the regular season. He had 2 in the playoffs. He was maybe the best red zone weapon in the entire NFL, regardless of what position we're talking about. And yet he got less money than Daniel Bellinger did with the Tennessee Titans and Charlie Kolar did, both of which, those players at the tight end position, have never had over 300 receiving yards in a single season. And while, yeah, Dallas Goedert's over the age of 30, he has an injury history. He was very bad as a blocker last year. Definitely need to see him bounce back in that department in 2026. But Dallas Goedert is also an established, elite, complete tight end, coming off a career year in touchdowns and receptions. And yet he's making $1 million less in 2026 than a couple of guys that have been like tight end 2s, tight end 3s throughout the majority of their career in New York and Baltimore. Daniel Bellinger and Charlie Kolar both got $8 million. Dallas Goedert is coming back on just a $7 million deal. And the craziest part about this, the way that Howie Roseman was able to pull this off, that still amazes me, is the fact that last year, Dallas Goedert had to take a pay cut to come back to the Eagles in 2025. He had to take a $4 million pay cut. His deal was about $14 million for last season, and we all thought he wasn't going to be an Eagle anymore because the Eagles were not going to bring him back at that number. He comes back on a $10 million contract, then goes on to have a career season in receptions and touchdowns, and now is taking $3 million less than last year. I don't know if his market just was not there, if it completely dried up, but I feel like this is more so Dallas Goedert just really wanted to be a Philadelphia Eagle for year 9. And I think that's really special, really cool when guys are, no matter what, even if it's taking an undervalued contract where it makes them underpaid, maybe, I don't want to say underappreciated, but undervalued compared to a contract they could have got if they tested the market. They don't care. They'd rather be Eagles. Like Devontae Smith was like this when he accepted his contract extension a couple years ago. It's just a really cool story. And for the Eagles, it's good because they were able to take advantage of Goedert wanting to remain an Eagle and finish his career in Philadelphia, because I think Goedert is severely underpaid right now. Again, you got him to take a pay cut last year. Then he had a career season, and he's accepting $3 million less than he got last year before a career year. And he's accepting less money than way less proven players like Daniel Bellinger, Charlie Kolar, Cade Otton got $10 million annually this offseason. Isaiah Likely got $13 million. Like, I like Isaiah Likely a lot, and he's a younger player than Dallas Goedert. But to get $6 million more in 2026, again, Howie Roseman continues to absolutely crush it when it comes to value. They got Arnold Ebiketie on just a $7 million contract last week, and he was a top 10 player last year when it comes to pass rush win rate on the edge. They got Reek Woolen, and by the way, Arnold Ebiketie's contract, it's only worth like $4.3 million guaranteed. Reek Woolen they got at $12 million to be your CB3, who I think is an elite man coverage corner. Again, are the Eagles doing anything absolutely crazy this offseason? Have they traded for Max Crosby? No, but they're getting the best bang for your buck when it comes to value. And what's also great about this contract is that it gives you flexibility now when it comes to the A.J. Brown situation. I still think that Diana Rossini's report from last Friday is accurate, that they're probably not going to trade him, if at all. If they're going to do it at all, it'll be post-June 1st, so they don't have to eat over $43 million in dead salary cap space. But I do think Dallas Goedert coming back, and the fact that they were able to avoid that $20 million dead cap hit that would have registered all in one lump sum this offseason if Dallas Goedert signed with another team. The fact that they were able to avoid that, I guess, does mean they technically could take on the A.J. Brown dead cap space before June 1st if a team like the Patriots come to them and say, or the Rams, and say, hey, we'll give you like the 13th overall pick in Devontae Adams, which obviously they're not going to do, but I'm just saying if it just blew you away with a trade offer. Now, the Eagles do have a little over $40 million in salary cap space. I guess technically I don't want to bite that bullet, and I still want to keep A.J. Brown this year, but if they get an offer they can't refuse, the Goddard move does allow them a little bit more flexibility on that front. Because if they let Dallas Goedert go and they had to eat $20 million dead cap this year right away, and they're eventually still going to have to eat that, whether it's spreading it out through years or just taking it all on next year based on what happens with Goddard next year in his contract situation, because it is only a one-year deal. I digress. If they would have eaten it all right now, you can't also trade away A.J. Brown and take on over $60 million in dead salary cap space in one season. Like, even the Eagles, who normally don't care about dead cap, that is a lot to handle in just one season. So bringing him back, it just checks a lot of boxes. It's a player that is coming off a career year that I think is going to be really instrumental to this offense this year as they're applying a new West Coast system under Sean Mannion. Jalen Hurts is a player that has never really played in this kind of system before. They're trying to get him to grow in areas like throwing over the middle of the field. To get back a tight end he has incredible chemistry with, that somebody he can trust to throw the football to over the middle of the field in Dallas Goedert, I think is really important. And then off the field, it gives you more salary cap flexibility to make a decision on to not feel like your hands are kind of tied, you're handcuffed to the A.J. Brown situation. So I think it checks a lot of boxes, and it's only for $7 million this year. Like I said, Dallas Goedert is somebody that I think is going to fit in this scheme really well. And he is a really great weapon to have for not just Jalen Hurts throwing over the middle of the field, but they're going to do a lot more under center play action this year. Getting Dallas Goedert to roll across the middle of the field along the right sideline. You look at those RPO plays with Hurts and Goddard that work so well. I think that's going to be a seamless transition with some more under center play action rollouts. It's a very similar type of passing play that Hurts and Goddard have really good chemistry in. So I think he's going to be a great fit in that way. Also, I think this offense is going to try to create more run after the catch opportunities for these weapons. The screen game hopefully can come back. Dallas Goedert is one of the better run after the catch tight ends in all of football. So I just think this was a no-brainer. Year 9 for Dallas Goedert actually ties Zach Ertz now for seasons played at the position in Philadelphia, quietly becoming a legend in Philly. He's 5th all-time in receptions in franchise history. Him and Devontae Smith keep going back and forth when it comes to the leaders all-time in playoff receptions and yards in Eagles history. So, and he keeps accepting less money than he probably should accept to stay an Eagle, which is awesome. I love when guys want to be Eagles for life, and that to me is Dallas Goedert. So this was really good news coming out of Sunday's news cycle.
That's all for today's Big 6 in 60. If you follow basketball, football, or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has a half hour on the biggest news in the NFL, the NBA, and on campus, going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA, the Big 3 in 30 NFL, or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 6 in 60.